What is up, my dolphins? And welcome back to my story at camp, or whatever I called the video. So, anyway, yeah, in case you're wondering about this picture, this is actually a real picture taken at Camp Joy, the actual place that I was at. Of course, it was a female cabin, but it still looks fairly similar to the cabins that I had. I mean, this was more the size of the other section of the cabin. We had the smaller room. This is like the Box Overlord one. The Sweet Gum was up mine, and yeah, this is basically the female equivalent to Box Overlord. Just to kind of, visualize for you guys. Yeah, that's what it looked like. And to help you guys visualize even more, here is another actual picture taken at Camp Joy. Some of you guys may think I'm kidding when I'm saying that these are actually pictures of Camp Joy. These are actually pictures of the very camp that I was at. This is a picture of a very much real cafeteria that I sat in. So anyway, yeah, that little ring of friends that I was in that I was talking about at the end of the last video was, if you kind of like that kind of like hall at the end there, where like the entry is next to like that that board and stuff that pretty much says what everyone's gonna be eating and stuff, like sort of like next to the windows, like at the very end of that hall where the tables split and stuff. That's where my ring of friends is and stuff, and we're talking, getting all hyped up. And finally, after like 20 minutes of waiting, we're finally getting taken outside. Now we're kind of going on like a path that stretches to the left, and we start going into the woods, kind of like where that plantation looking part was. That's exactly where we went, actually. We went right in front of, that plantation spot. We start getting kind of freaked out and stuff. So they basically just kind of gather us all up. 60 people. I mean, a little less because some people just straight up didn't go. Just a bunch of people there. Just in front. Just 60 people gathered up in about let's say 70 square feet in front of this little 1800s looking house. So we all get in front of it and stuff. We're just kind of like, well, what the fuck is going on? Because there's like a bunch of woods and stuff next to it. There's like a bunch of grass, like really tall grass. So basically, here's where things start getting interesting. Okay. So we're all just kind of sitting there and stuff, and suddenly the most horrifying, most just out of nowhere thing that ever happened to me, that just caught me off guard and just everyone around me off guard, completely speechless and shocked and scared to all hell. Suddenly we hear this. I said get on your knees! Oh! 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 I said! Oh, you gonna disobey me? Oh! Yes. Of course, imagine a lot more scary and not done by a 14-year-old with a shitty mic. We basically hear that, and she comes around the side of the house and says, "Why are y'all standing up? Get on your knees now!" So at this point, about 3 girls are already bursting out into tears and putting their bandanas down. Like, oh god. At this point, I was just kind of standing there, like completely shocked with my eyes wide open. Basically, they made 3 very specific rules. 1 was obviously no talking. 2 was get on your knees. And 3 was to never look a white man in the eye. Because you're not human and you shouldn't look someone who isn't a non-human shouldn't look a human in the eye. So at that point, everyone was just kind of following those rules, and I was just kind of standing there shocked. And this chick walks up to me with her gun, like her hand on her holster, like, got something to say, Piggy. I was like, no. She's like, thinking on your knees. I was just kind of like, okay. So I got on my knees and started looking at the ground. Suddenly, these 2 white guys show up. I mean, they were white, but, character, of course, they're white. Obviously, they were looking to buy some black booty. Everyone needs some, plantation stuff. So I kept trying to, like, sneak peeks up, but every time I did, the white guy would be like, "Get your eyes back on them dirt, Piggy." Yeah, get your eyes back on them dirt. That is literally what he said. I mean, I pictured that people from the 1800s would be very illiterate, like, can't talk shit, but, this just kind of broke my knowledge. Like, what the fuck, what are you doing? A little bit of time passed, and I just so happened to be kind of like on my knees next to this kid named Nick, who actually moved a year after that, but that's not really important. Nick was absolutely in love with me. He wanted to be my best friend, but at the same time, Nick tried to be funny so badly, and at the same time, he just became really annoying, just would not get his head crammed out of my dick hole. So, eventually, they start picking out slaves for different groups, to be bought by a different set of people. So, I eventually were able to sneak a few peeks, and that house I was talking about earlier, that dinky little shed that was kinda nice inside? That was supposedly the plantation. Well, my friend Matt, that I mentioned as one of my closer friends, he, he basically got picked in one of the first groups of slaves, and to have them wait, he had them, just kind of stay in the little house for a minute, just kind of like stand there and wait for further orders. Thing is, I'm assuming Matt had to pee really badly, and I mentioned in the ending of the last video, I believe I did at least, that I also had to pee really badly, which will come into play later. So Matt decided to be a good idea to take a piss on the door. Like, I'm not even joking. I saw his back, and I saw a stream of yellow water just hitting the door and kind of bouncing off of it. Pretty sure someone got in his pants. I start cracking up. I just can't help it. And the white chick just starts mall walking after me. She's like, something funny, pig. I don't know why they said pig. It kind of rhymes with the N words, so maybe? I said, no. She was like, you better get your eyes back on them dirts, Piggy. Again, with the grammar. I was like, right. They were so mean. They were so in character. I bet they wanted to do it. I bet their life just got destroyed by children. Like, we're gonna pretend that these white kids are black and also in the 1850s. Let's do it. There were only like 2 or 3 black kids in the grade, so yeah. So each group of, piggies to be picked out would also have, a teacher as one of the slaves to be pre-selected into each group, so, eventually they'd be led in our escape on the Underground Railroad. So, of course, my English teacher, Mrs. Klopp, got to be mine. Also, Nick is in this group, so yeah. Also, a kid named Bryce, he'll be important later. At this point, I'm pretty startled, but I'm not really scared, but I gotta piss really bad. So we start kind of going down this trail that kind of separates into the woods, and this is where things start getting spooky. So we start kind of going down this pathway, and this other white chick that just keeps blabbering on, like, yeah, you piggies better not ever think about running away, 'cause my husband's got some doggies, and he's gonna get you if you ever try it. So at this point, we basically kind of stop at this fork in the road. It's like you could go straight or you could go left. Obviously, our pathway was clearly straight. Like, she was trying to lead us to some kind of plantation, but obviously Camp Joy funds. So she makes the excuse that, well, piggies, the thing is, we don't quite have a shack yet on our plantation for you pigs. So until we can do so, y'all are going to be making beds out in the dirt. And it's not even in the dirt, it's in, like, gravel, like those little pebble roads. So she's like, alright, pigs. About time y'all start making your beds. Everyone on their knees start making your beds in the dirt. Everyone's making beds, getting their hands dirty. I'm just kind of sitting there, like, pretending to make myself a little dirt bed. I'm just kind of, like, rubbing the ground awkwardly. She looks at me like, get to work! I was like, okay. I stop rubbing things and just kind of, like, going to town. She walks by this kid named Bryce that I previously mentioned. He happened to pick up a pebble, like, stole it from a chick. I don't know why a pebble would be good for making yourself a dirt bed, but, why not? She got down, she kind of, like, leaned down, looked him straight in the face, and said, you getting greedy, pig? He was like, no. I couldn't do it anymore. I just laughed. Mrs. Klopp was, like, right next to me. She was like, you gonna get us killed. She was also way too in character. I can't do black chick voice. Yeah, anyway, I still get yelled at by the master. Eventually, she makes a point that she's just gonna go ahead and run back to her little plantation, and if that we try to run away, we're gonna get hit by a dog, we're gonna get whipped a lot. Eventually, after a bit of laying down, we wait for her to just kind of, like, go so she doesn't look back and notice that we're running away. So, Miss Klopp gets up and claims that she is a agent sent by the Underground Railroad to help slaves get out of, slavery. Eventually, that little fork in the road, that chick went straight, we went left. Eventually, we find a little sign with a guy with a KKK mask that says, to the left. I don't remember what it said specifically. She was basically like, anyone here know how to read? We were all just kind of waiting for, someone to say, I know how to read. I was about to say I know how to read, but all of a sudden this kid named Johnny, not the previously mentioned John in the last video, but a different Johnny. That guy was John, this guy is Johnny. Johnny and John, two very different words. He was like, I do. Okay, what does it say? By the way, you're gonna get us killed. Basically, he read it off, and we went off in the direction that the sign was pointing. And stuff. We eventually meet up with this other lady that was posing as a white person, and she decided that she was also going to help us get out of there. I think her name was like Betty or something like that. Eventually, we heard like barks and stuff, and everything just gets incredibly scary. And yeah, at this point, a few of the girls had kind of gathered their composure. This is a group with about 15 people in it. The girls that were crying previously had kind of gathered their composure. They were doing fine. They were fine until we kind of meet at a little bridge. There's like two kind of sides that kind of like swerve off, and there's a little bridge that connects them. It's like a 5 foot gap. But a bounty hunter finds us. Y'all pigs, what you doing here? Betty makes this excuse like, "Oh, I was just trying to take them. Their master, PB Coombs, was he was gonna use them for this orchestra." Basically, he's like, "All right, let's see how good you are at singing." And it was pretty obvious at this point that he wanted us to sing "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot." So we were all like, "Swing low, sweet chariot." All just add a tune, at a time. We all just sound awful. Of course, we were supposed to sound awful, but it's like y'all guys sound awful. So somehow I believe you. It's like you two pigs. Looks at me and Johnny. You come here. Johnny hands him this note. It's like yeah. Well, I don't know. There was some kind of note involved. I'm not sure how it was involved, but yeah, there was a note in the note. It's like, all right. I just want some confirmation here because that lady seems kind of sketchy. Who's your master? I was about to say PB Coombs, but then Johnny says PF Coombs. He says PF Coombs when bright as day. The word PB Coombs is getting shot around like 20 times. So eventually he returns us back to the group like, hey, Betty, what's the name of their master again? Oh, PB Coombs, why you ask? He said it was PF Coombs! At this point, I'm basically face palming myself so hard that I look like that meme where his hand goes through the guy's face. So eventually the dude gets very angry and shoots her. Quote unquote shoot. I mean, the special effects look pretty real. I mean, the gun even kind of smoked up at the end. There was like kind of like an ash kind of effect going on. And at this point, all the girls that had gathered their composure just kind of shit themselves. I could see like half the group's bandanas coming down to their necks. I was still freaked out, but I was like, you know what? It's scripted. Screw it. So I was still strong. Kept my bandana at my head. And yeah. Eventually he takes us to this little shack where he claims that tomorrow I'm going to get the boys and y'all are going back to your master. By the way, this isn't 10 minutes after us, escaping, so yeah. It brings us in this little shack, and basically we have to get down in his little dinky basement that's like flooded at the bottom. It's like, I'll get y'all tomorrow, I gotta go out. Saying he has to go out even though it's like 11. He leaves, and right before, the girls are kind of okay now, but then he's like, hopefully them spiders and snakes don't get you while I'm gone. And they're just, like 2 minutes after he leaves, I'm like hitting my head on like pillars and stuff. And eventually, Miss Klopp once again attempts another daring escape, and eventually we leave, we're off. Now here's where me having to pee gets out. So we get to this swamp, and I'm like, luckily I brought boots, we're all just, ha! I'm gonna leave a cliffhanger here because my videos can't be that long. This is apparently gonna be a 3-parter. This just took a little more time than I expected, I'm sorry, but this is going to be a 3-parter. It's probably going to be shorter than these 2 episodes, but anyway, remember, we're off here. 3 episodes one day.